Today in my devotions, I read John chapter 14, verses 30 and 31. I will not talk with you much longer. I am going away so that the world may know that I love the Father, just as the Father commanded me, so I do. Get up, let's leave this place. You know, Jesus had been teaching his disciples. He had specifically sharing with them why he was leaving, the fact that he was going to leave, he had to leave, it was time for him to leave, and how important that was that he did leave. You know, of course, the disciples weren't happy about this, but you know, Jesus reminded them that I have to be faithful to what the Father has called me to do. Jesus' job was to come, to die on the cross, to be resurrected, and then he was going to go back to heaven to intercede for us, to be our mediator. That's what he was commanded to do by the Father. That's why he came here to this earth. And you know, so it was time for him to move on. He did what he was supposed to do, and now he was moving on. He was teaching the disciples something too. He was also teaching them, you know, I've been here teaching you and teaching you and teaching you. I've been training you. I've been preparing you. Now it is going to be time for you to go out and to fulfill your calling, to do what God has called you to do. You know, there's a certain amount of planning that has to go into everything. And part of that planning has to do with learning, has to do with, you know, like for us to serve God, to meditate on his word, to learn more about the Bible, to understand God better. You know, and we need to do these things. They're so important that we prioritize our relationship with God. But when God teaches us something, when God's called us to do something, we need to go out and do it. Too often we are stuck on the planning aspect of it, on the learning aspect of it. And you know, what God has taught us is absolutely useless unless we use it. It means nothing because it's just inside of us, doing nothing. We know it, we understand stuff better, but what good does it do? God wants us to use what we've learned to help other people, to motivate them, to help them become closer to God, to help them to understand God better, to help them to be able to serve him better. We never are supposed to just keep everything to ourselves. Use what you've learned to glorify God and exalt